This time on DawgStrip, it's another epic road trip. This time through the BC Kootenays, the southwest corner of the province we have yet to explore. This area is both full of wilderness beauty and abandoned historic locations.
For this adventure, we choose BumbleBee, a Chevy van we shortened about 4 years ago. To see how we built it, go check out the video from the link below.
Alright, so now it's time for another road trip in BumbleBee. The first time this year, it's time to get out, let's go wander.
Campsites, ghost towns.
That's right, and there's another awesome little adventure he doesn't know about yet.
But thankfully, I have my medication.
Yeah, medication. It lets you forget about your fears, even though they're still there. This adventure will be a 4-day road trip. The current map showing you the first day's travel, just putting on distance as we make our way towards the Burton campsite. It should also be pointed out this all took place in August of 2021, during the peak forest fire activity in the area. This highway was closed an hour after we passed through. Nerve-wracking, to say the least.
Luckily, as we traveled west, the forest fire smoke faded away, but not entirely. It would come and go throughout the rest of this trip.
This area is beautiful.
Let's zoom out for a moment and take note of just how far we are from the ocean. And now we find ourselves lining up for a ferry in the mountains. And one of us doesn't like boats. I didn't think it'd be this big.
I wasn't aware it was going to be a boat.
Boats are good.
Where are we going to fit?
Last car. He doesn't want to come out of there. This is the Needles Cable Ferry. It uses submerged cables to take itself across the 1 kilometer distance in about 10 minutes. And it's free, no charge. Hooray for BC highways.
Leave the ferry.
After leaving the ferry, it doesn't take Kevin long to spot something along the side of the road.
Time to go explore an old farmhouse.
And this is where I stay, in the van, away from bears and bugs.
So here we have one of our non-automotive hobbies, urban exploration. For those of you that don't know, that's the exploration of abandoned locations. Our specialty seems to be old farmhouses or whatever we can find on old back roads. 2016. Finding newspapers, calendars, or old telephone books can help you date the age of the abandonment.
We promise to keep the farmhouse footage to a minimum. We doubt you enjoy 15 minutes of aimless wandering per house, so we'll keep this to the highlight reel. We all know you're here for the sweet, sweet vehicle content.
Now back to the amazing and awe-inspiring cabin in the woods. What was it? The mystery of these locations we find intriguing. Was it Grandma's old shack that no one wanted to inherit? Someone's hidden grow-up? Or simply a summer cabin project that was given up on or lost interest in? We can't answer these questions. So for us, the mystery lingers, the intrigue remains.
Anything cool?
That's pretty lame, actually.
Once back on the road, we head toward this evening's campsite in the tiny town of Burton, BC, on the east shore of Lower Arrow Lake in the West Kootenays. Nothing fancy here, just a regular wreck site next to the water. Although it was rather creepy watching the smoke rolling in over the hillsides.
Another thing we'd like to share is our BioLite camp stove. It burns wood pellets, or anything else you can fit into it, equipped with an electric fan to really get those flames going, and best of all, it even charges your phone.
With the dawn of the second day, we start our way toward the ghost town of Sandon. But of course, while along the way, Kevin spots another neglected farmhouse off in the distance.
Not only a farmhouse, but this time it has trucks. Lots of trucks. And you know they've been there a while, when Mother Nature starts taking hold. still growing. For us, it's a mixed bag when we find these derelict vehicles. We love coming across them, but at the same time, it's a sad sight. Sometimes little more than a carcass left to slowly wither away. A steed forgotten by its rider, left to roam no more. Some may be saved, but those are few and far between. March 1989. Vehicles aside, now on to the residence. We'll give it the super quick speedy run through so we don't drag out the video length. As always, we look for signs when the location was last occupied. Clues seem to point to about 14 years ago. Each location is different and can vary widely by build and deterioration. No two are the same, and you never know what you're gonna find.
Once Kevin can be coaxed back into the van, we're back on the road, heading toward the main destination of this trip, the goal for this entire adventure, the ghost town of Sandon, BC.
Sandon is an interesting spot. Being a silver mining town with its heyday back in 1892 through 1900, its population peaking around 5,000 souls. The 1950s marked the end of Sandon, abandoned and rainfall washing away most of the town. Slowly, through the efforts of a select few, the town transformed into what you find now. A lovely tourist destination with its mining roots on full display. A few restored buildings surrounded by a smorgasbord of historic relics, some local and some imported. Very informative as you can wander about, ring the train bell, or play bus driver.
All aboard. Okay.
Speaking of the old trolley buses, they have become a large part of this town, a hallmark if you will, a very photogenic sight amongst the thickened tree-steeped valleys. These electronic trolleys served the streets of Vancouver from the 1940s through to the 1980s. Nearly 300 of them in all sat in storage until 2001, when, sadly, that location was sold out from under them. They were all destined for scrap, but 13 were saved. They were brought to Sandon and stored in case of a historical bus line wanted to be restored, much similar to the cable car and street trolleys of San Francisco. But that dream was not to be. Here they have sat for the last 20 years, ghost buses for a ghost town.
Next, we take a tour of the Silversmith Powerhouse, Canada's oldest, continuously running hydroelectric power plant that has been active since 1916, providing 100% green power to Sandon and the neighboring town of New Denver. For old engine buffs, this place is amazing. Well maintained, restored while being fully functional. You can still see everything, and touch things you really shouldn't be touching. It's rare these days to have such open access to what would normally be locked off. A fantastic place for a tour.
Pick a road. Pick any road.
Next we get back in the van and head up the road to the neighboring ghost town of Cody. Following the same rise and fall as Sandon, Cody hit a population of about 150 before being completely abandoned in 1910. Today, very little remains other than a few buildings, the heavy timbers from the Noble 5 mining concentrator, Fume, and the tram line. The tram line was used back in the day to transport ore down the mountainside. The most impressive thing on site, from our point of view, was a huge 4-cylinder diesel engine. At over 8 feet tall, it would have been something to hear back in its day, over 100 years ago, thumping away slowly in the dense woodlands.
It's a curled, riveted pipe. You can see how it was curled and then riveted. That's cool. With exploration done for the day, we head back to Sandon to camp for the night. A campsite right on the main strip, next to the river with power included. Time to kick back and relax a little.
Police squad in color.
After an early morning rise of 6 a.m., I was surprised to find there was a 6 a.m. We are back on the road, apparently in a rush to make it to the big surprise, an adventure Kevin has yet to inform me of. Dress warm was all he said, and he questioned if I was claustrophobic.
Cave tours. 7.5 hours in the cave.
Oh, good God, really?
Yeah.
Next, we find ourselves at the Cody Cave Tours.
The faintest idea what I'm getting involved in here.
We signed ourselves up for the Guided Adventure Tour Package, the all-in everything deal. 6 hours underground crawling through mud with nothing but our headlamps to show the way. 1 guide, 6 tourists.
Courage. What do you plan these things?
Just try not to land on the 9-year-old.
You hold the rock. Lower yourself down.
We've done cave tours before, but never anything like this. This was muddy, wet, and cold, crawling on our stomach through spaces not much bigger than ourselves. This was amazing. Our guide, Scott, was very informative and took great care of us. His guidance clearly spurring us through some uncomfortable spaces.
Watch your head on this one.
Oh, okay, just that one.
Just that one. Watch your head only on this one.
Everything else is under.
Everything else is fine. Everything else is fine.
Our tour was the most challenging available and took us over 1 kilometer into the cave. There are much easier packages if you don't want to get yourself dirty, but we found the tour challenging and we felt better for doing it. It was quite the workout indeed.
So we just came back from the center of the earth with Scott, our amazing speleologist. I think I said that correctly. Let me get one take. Amazing guy. You guys should come here and visit.
After a long day in the caves, we spend the night at the Ainsworth Resort, a comfy bed to rest our weary bones. The next day, we start heading home, wandering north until we find ourselves in the town of Kaslo.
Kaslo has a treat for us, the Moye, the world's oldest intact passenger stern-wheeler. Her impressive 60-year service on Kootenay Lake ran from 1898 until 1957. Since 1958, this ship has taken on a second life, that of a historic site and museum, attracting visitors from all over the world.
The Moye is a beautiful museum, restored to her original operating condition and is loaded with historical accurate cargo and displays. Mechanically, the ship is gorgeous. Never before had we seen anything like this. So old that it felt foreign to us. It was enthralling to identify the systems and figure out how things work. When was the last time you got to wander around on a steamship? This was glorious.
The Moye is 161 feet long, 30 feet wide with a draft of 5 feet, and weighs in at a hefty 526 tons. She could carry 250 passengers with freight, 400 passengers without, steam powered, and could reach a speed of 22 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, this is my spot.
As a quick recap, take as much time as you want. The Moye is a great spot to stop. Highly, highly recommended. As we continue homeward, wandering dreary wet dirt roads, we come across another random abandoned homestead. And this one was loaded.
While investigating potential abandoned locations, we cautiously approach. Just because it's messy or run down, it doesn't mean it's uninhabited. When we arrive, we have a tendency to slam a car door. We yell out hello a few times, and we generally make our presence known. After all, you're basically trespassing, allegedly, and you don't want to surprise someone with your presence on their property. Once we know we're alone, it's time to explore.
Wow. This is vintage old. Wow. 1890.
Everyone has their own set of rules or tips when it comes to urban exploration. Don't take our words for gospel, but this is how we do things. No trespassing signs are a bummer. When they're posted, we keep out. If doors are locked, then they stay closed, even if we're tempted to see what's behind it. It's still someone else's property, and we're not there to trash it. If we come through a door we can unlock from the inside, we lock it when we're done. Generally, leave things the way we found them. Take only pictures, leave nothing but footprints. Even if you're tempted, don't take anything. Just think about game trail camps. It's not worth it, or the trouble you can get yourself into.
Now let's talk about safety. Always take in the big picture. Be careful around moving water, blah blah and blah. At this point, Kevin spots a shed across the river and moves to inspect. Then, bam! Nearly getting the plank to the face. Dodging certain death for sure. Always be careful with your footing.
Cheating death was clearly worth it. We believe this to be the homestead of an old remote mine site, perhaps back in the hills. This little shed has a water wheel for making electricity. This place has its own hydropower plant. This is impressive and unexpected. The more we walk around, the more equipment we see. Random old engines, tools, then BAM! This old beauty.
Oh, yes. Look at that.
This right here is what we get excited for. Finding a long-forgotten automobile in the forest. Just look at the buildup of this moss. You can tell it's been here for a long time. After a little research through the good old interwebs, we believe this to be a 1952 to 1954 Austin Somerset A40. This fine British car, equipped with a fire-breathing 1.2 litre engine, an asthmatic 7.2 to 1 compression ratio. The small herd of 42 ponies could glide this carriage up to a maximum of 71 miles per hour. That would equate to 0 to 60 in about 36.6 seconds, the equivalent of paint drying. But at least 30 miles per gallon was a good thing. It was probably faster than walking, and the style is stunning. It looks like a mini Rolls Royce.
Strange to find an exotic car so far in the wilderness, seemingly out of place. Perhaps it was the residents' first car, or their parents' car. Still in rather good shape for nearly 70 years old, someone must have loved it. Just over the next bridge we find more vehicles, more suitable for the environment. These we believe to be 1971 to 1972 International Scouts. They were designed as the direct competition to the Willys Jeep. Its purpose was to be a small, nimble, four-wheel drive vehicle, the predecessor to the modern SUV. Definitely a cool find, but slowly being reclaimed by nature.
We could stay here all day, but it's still a long drive home, so we better get moving.
Alright, so we decided to take the Highway 31 north of Caslow just because it was a different route and it was a road that we hadn't taken before. Yeah, pavement went away and now it's going to be 27 kilometers of this.
After a second ferry ride through the Rockies, we find ourselves on the home stretch, saying goodbye, for now, to the epic BC Kootenays, bringing this adventure to a close.
After 4 days and 1,000 kilometers on the road, we are home.
We are home. That was amazing. We can't even remember everything we did yet, but hopefully you enjoyed the videos, whatever came of this, and we'll keep the adventures coming. Good night.
Good night.
Next time on DawgStrip, we start a new project. Newer, bigger, boldier. We have our sights set on some ambitious, next-level poor decision-making. We have a blast while tearing into a rotten old motorhome. Stay tuned to find out what we're up to. Subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing.
What are you doing?
I'm waiting for the roller coaster ride. History is rusty. Lumberjack sports. So. First try.